he has such a strong presence on the screen. Like, he is, first of all, like a physically large dude. He is intimidating and then has a towering personality on top of it. Like, from the very first scene, you know this is not a guy you want to get on the wrong side of, because he kind of has a short fuse. There's a propensity to just be super violent. The scene where one of these kids spit on the police wall and he just is having a bad day and he just loses it at them. He is a terrifying individual, and he's got the physical like prowess to kind of back that up. Kind of like in Errata, where he's like throwing people around in like a kitchen or something. That was like, that's going to stay in my mind for a long time. But like, the supporting cast in this are all terrific, man. But every time he's on screen, his presence, his charisma just overwhelms everyone else and everything else that's going on the screen. I think like one of the really interesting aspects to this is he has got some terrific range in this film, because when you meet this guy at the start, I think his name is Manian, a police officer. Like, he's a bit of a despicable character, or you're a bit unimpressed by him, because like the first thing you see him doing is like frame a kid for like a crime, because it's like the daughter of a politician is involved. So he just goes in and like frames this innocent boy for a crime he didn't commit. And you're just like, oh my God, you've got this rookie cop with you, Praveen, or that character played by Praveen. Oh, is it Praveen is this character's name? Yeah. And he's like teaching him this is the way of the world. And so you start not having a very high regard for him. But as the film progresses, you see like the shades of his character, like his love for his daughter, his affection, his commitment to wanting to be there for his daughter's performance, is trying to help the other guys who are on the run with him, the Praveen character and the Sunitha character. He's trying to teach them, although occasionally he loses patience with them. But just by the end of the film, like, what a tragic arc to his character, because you are fully on board with him. You want them to get through this. You want them to show their innocence, and you want him to be reunited with his daughter. But the arc that this character goes on, the more you kind of know about him, the more you learn he becomes endearing. And then like his downfall is remarkably quick, right? Like, he's a really confident guy, then has to go in the run. He's frantic trying to get these guys out. Then the stresses, starts drinking, and then what happens at the end, I guess, where he ends it all. Like, it all happens quickly, but it all makes sense in the flow of the character. And the way that Joju George is able to portray that hard, fierce, strong character with that vulnerable side, just like brilliant, man. Like, he makes this movie as good as everyone else is, and every other element of this film is superb. Without him and his strong presence and his character work, I don't think this film could have been as good as it was.
Yeah, no, I think he's probably the backbone of this movie. Like, he's like he sort of carries the movie at most times. Like, you know, I think both from a plot perspective and also a little bit from just his overall presence. When all three of them together, it seems like he is sort of towering on top of all of them. Like, that's how much of a presence he sort of has. But yeah, you're right. He's so erratic, it feels like because I think in the first act of the first quarter, before, you know, it gets serious and they're sort of trying to escape.
Bill kicks off.
Yeah, when the sort of the survival stuff starts. He basically has moments where he's like, in one scene, he's basically like, he's really just like, you know, aggressive and angry towards everyone. Then he just switches it around. He's making jokes and he's having like a good time. Then he's showing he's endearing, and then he'll switch again and just be completely mean to everybody once again.
Unhinged,
unhinged. He's crazy. He's like, just like, and you're right. Then it switches from like all that to sort of showing what's some of the emotional side of things when he really reflects on his daughter. But he also has moments where he's just completely devastated and he's just silent and he's just drinking. And even when he does that, it's so convincing and so well done that he just carries this whole scene. It's something about him. It's really impressive. And this movie was before Errata, so I think just from his growth point of view, I think he was a little bit more dynamic in Errata. Maybe it was just more screen time, to be honest. Because in that movie, he's almost there 100% of the time. Whereas in this movie, he does sort of share the spotlight with these other two actors who are also fantastic in their own sort of respects as well. So we've got two, I think for you, two new faces. For me, one new face, really. Kunchacko Boban. I thought he was really good. Played a really, you know, as a rookie cop, I think he really portrayed that really well. Like, he was really
the naivety and the like not understanding how the world worked kind of way.
And sort of being he was a bit like it's like his father had a great reputation, and living up to that, you could sort of tell that he doesn't really live up to that. But at the same time, he's very defensive of him, as we sort of see them tussle at times. But what do you think of these other two actors as well as sort of the other cast?
Yeah, I mean, the Praveen character, this Kunchacko Boban, I thought he also was a bit of the heart of this film, because while the Joju George character, he's a bit of a slow burn to get on his side after a while, right? Because he's so erratic at the start, and then you learn more about him and his backstory and you sympathize. Whereas I think you're automatically on board with the Praveen character. You kind of see the world through his eyes as you understand this world a bit more, the corruption and how the police and the politicians are in bed, and you see how it all works. You're learning it with him. And I think he's not yet corrupted by all of that. So you kind of start this journey, and like, obviously his fate, he doesn't die, but his career is ruined, right? Like he learns really what this world is about and how you got to play the game. Otherwise you're going to like suffer the consequences. But I think he's a very endearing character as well, because he has some like very sweet moments in this, because he really feels like the glue trying to keep this trio together. Because Joju George is like going off, like having his own like crisis and drinking and being erratic. The Sunita character, she's kind of, I think, initially just in a state of shock. Like she walks out in front of a bus and almost gets killed. Like she's just like failing to understand the situation for a while. And he's the one trying to keep them all together, try and be like nice to them. There's that beautiful scene where he goes and gets her like the sanitary pads without her even asking anything. And you're just like, okay, this is a really good, caring guy, not yet corrupted by all the things that like Joju George has to feel. So, and he seems like a very thoughtful person, and you actually spend a lot of time just sitting with him. Like when they're bathing in the river and stuff, there's just a scene of him just sitting there, just looking out, and you're just kind of sitting there with him being like, how did it come to this sort of thing? So I think his naivety, he's like genuinely a good-hearted person. I think he is also an emotional core of this, because his arc, while not quite as tragic, like nothing good happens for him by being a good guy at the end of this. Like doing the right thing does not benefit anyone here. Doing the wrong thing even screws over the Joju George character, who you think is the savvy guy, but the tables turn on him too. So no one wins. But I thought he did a terrific performance, man. He was vulnerable. You really were on side with him from the get-go.
No, definitely. I really enjoyed his performance as well. You're right. The points you bring up are really good. Like he is really naive at times and trying to understand the world. And that's sort of, they're all sort of tragic in their own sort of way. But his side of things, like he's really contained at times as well, I feel. Like especially towards the start, like he's not really speaking up against people. Like he's respectful towards other cops. Like he's always saluting them, and then it's basically backfires in his face at the start, and that leads to sort of the that's sort of one of the reasons what sort of kicks off all the entire fight,
that's a good point. Yes,
the one time he sort of
that's right,
rebels, and then we get the starting of the whole scene that they fall into. But I think I'd seen Namisha in another movie, which I think she was a little bit had more of a role to play. In this, I felt like she was good, but she definitely was third character, I think, in the hierarchy.
100%.
But I think probably the standout scene was the one you mentioned when she's sort of in front of the truck and she's just shaken. That scene was so good because it sort of showed how different people are dealing with this trauma, It's so like
100%, yes.
Joju or Manian and Praveen are basically just, fighting. Like that's how they're basically, expressing their anger. And she's just internalizing it. So much that she's basically gone into shock. So it's pretty good. And obviously great chemistry between the three of them on the journey together, because it was just them, right? That's all. They had the story was
that's
just about
right.
them.